We got the Memphis Grizzlies facing the New Orleans Pelicans. It was a tight game to start off with, but then it looked like the Pelicans were going to run away with it. You had CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram doing their thing in the second quarter, but then you had a little stumbling and bumbling in the third by the Pelicans, given the the runway for the Grizzlies to cut it down to 10, and then in the fourth quarter, it was a John Morant show as he was able to, in the winding seconds, to walk off, drive down the lane with the spin move for the finishing layup to put to get the victory for the Grizzlies. What did you make of that game last night, man?
Well, 12 looked like 12, right? I mean, he's already in regular season form. I thought it was great that he got to practice with the team. I think that helps a lot because just from the beginning, like even the little things, you saw the athleticism was there. And he even, like, first couple plays of the game, he threw a lob. His teammate missed, got it right back, just showed that athleticism and that hunger. And everybody talks about Ja being an elite athlete, right? I think that's apparent. It's eye popping. But what people sometimes don't talk about is his elite passing, his elite IQ, his craft, and the combination of all of that makes him a really special player. He showed why he's a generational talent in this game, and it's great to see him back on the court.
For sure. It's great to see him back on the court. It shows why he's a generational talent. I mean, it's just impressive that he comes back from what was it, a 25 game suspension, and now he's just looks like nothing is like he didn't miss a beat, man. He legitimately didn't miss a beat. He's still flying up and down the court like a blur. And with him coming back, it starts to answer. It was great. It's great time for the Grizzlies, who was a struggling team, right? I mean, you look at the NBA standings; they're in the bottom. They're right now not even in playing contention. They are currently they're currently was it 13th? They're 13th right now, 7-19, and they're looking on the outside in right now. But with John Morant back, do you feel like they get into the do you feel like they can make a push to get back into like playing category? Because well, you got 10 and 17, which is the Utah Jazz ahead of them. They're out of contention. The Warriors, even though they won last night, they're technically out of contention, being 13 and 14. I feel like 7-19 with John Morant, the way that he's playing, and the Pelicans being 16 and 12, and it looks like they're just such an inconsistent team. I feel like 7 to 10 to get into playing category, the Grizzlies could make a push to get in there right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could be hopeful for the play-ins, and this was a great start, obviously. I mean, what better way? You couldn't even write it better, like his comeback, game winner, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this West is just so deep, so tough. I think they have a tall task ahead of them coming out to such a slow start. But Ja is back, and he is generational. So let's see if he can lift and carry this team. He said he got all those receipts on deck. So maybe that gives the whole team added motivation, and he could catapult this team into the play-ins.
I'm feeling pretty optimistic about this Grizzlies team being able to make that type of push, just because when I look at the Western Conference, I agree with you that it's stacked. Like, look, obviously you got the Timberwolves are 20 and 5, they're out ahead. OKC 17 and 8, but then and for the rest of the top six, I mean 16 and 10 is where you get to be in the top six of the Western Conference. But then I look at the Pelicans, who are 16 and 12. I look at the Lakers 15 and 12, Houston 13-11, the Suns 14 and 13. I know those teams right there, they got a lot of, especially I'm not going to say the Rockets yet, but the Suns, the Lakers, the Pelicans, they have that star power, right? But I feel like a team like the Rockets could slip just because they're a young, inexperienced team. And a team like the Grizzlies, who has experience, who's been in the playoffs for a couple of years, you get your star back. And with Desmond Bane, too, he didn't shoot necessarily great in the first half, but he came on and has always been a solid second guy on that team. I feel like there's enough. Also, you got Triple J on that team, too. I feel like that team has enough together, and with their star back, they should be able to make that type of push, man, especially for playing. And then once you get to playing, as Adam Silver, I'm sure, loves about this, anything can happen. I mean, obviously, you saw what the Lakers did last year. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. I'm pretty optimistic about this Grizzlies team right now, just by how I know it's only one game, but Ja just looks like he hasn't missed a beat, man. And that when your star player looks like that, I don't know, man. You always have a chance when your star player is playing great.
Yeah, I want to see what teams in the West are going to make a trade, right? Like, I think the Rockets could get even better. The Lakers are looking at Levine. The Warriors might make moves the way their season has been tough, even though they had an electrifying end to that game yesterday. So it's so hard to say now because we don't even know what these teams will look like. But I do think it's a very tall task. The one good thing is that Memphis Grizzlies games are going to be very exciting with Ja back and them having something to play for every single night. Like, I think those guys are going to be locked in. It's going to be like win or go home every night for them because they got to win a lot of these games moving forward.
They do have to win a lot of these games moving forward. And I'm gonna pull up Tankathon right now, not to
Okay.
see where the draft pick is for the Grizzlies, but I want to see the strength of schedule for what the Grizzlies got. Because if they got a light schedule, man, then I don't see why they're not able to make some sort of push. Let's see. Trying to find it right now. Got a whole bunch of other things that they're showing me. Let's see. Remaining schedule strength. There we go. Grizzlies have, so right now they have the sixth toughest strength of schedule based on the win percentage throughout the league. So it's going to be a tough sled for them, but this is a team that historically has also been up there with top competition. I feel like, even with Desmond Bane, it looks like Desmond Bane's taking another jump in his development too this
Right.
season. I
Yeah.
feel like between those two guys, anything's possible. I guess for me, the only thing I'd have to say is like, could Ja just stay out of the issues that plagued him last season, right? Because the NBA is going to have, you know, they're gonna have Ja on a short leash at this point with like the nonsense that he pulled off throughout all of last season, especially with his, whether who's in his circle, pulling out a gun on social media and stuff of that nature. I just see the NBA is going to be honing in on Ja and watching his every step at this point forward. So as long as he stays out of the news for the wrong reasons, to me, like I said, this team can move forward. But the team I also got to talk about is their opponents, the New Orleans Pelicans, man, because
Mm.
I'm watching this game, Andrew, and I'm like, all right, we get 34 points from Brandon Ingram. We get 22 points from Jonas Valanciunas. CJ McCollum is just sniping from downtown, goes 6 of 9 from three. You get some timely buckets from Herb Jones down the stretch of the game, especially to tie it up. But then you look at the guy who they drafted number one overall not too long ago, right? The
Hmm.
guy who's also been in the media, who's been in the news for the wrong reasons. And Zion Williamson only comes out of here with 13 points and 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 of 12 from the field. And I'm like, and when you're watching this game, man, there's like some easy attempts around the rim that he's not even finishing. And I'm just, what's going on here, Andrew? What are your thoughts have been about Zion this season?
Yeah, he has like these energetic bursts where he still looks like a generational athlete. I mean, even after the midseason tournament, he had a 36-point game. So it's kind of like Harden in the playoffs when players are slightly out of shape. They have like these bursts of greatness where they show their talent, and there's times that they don't show it. There's inconsistency when you don't take care of yourself, when you don't take care of your body. So, there's things coming out of their side saying that he's not listening to them, he's not eating right, he's not taking care of his health in the right way. So hopefully he could get that together. But you're right, it is discouraging because you mentioned Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. I mean, those guys are professional scorers. They played well last night and they still lost this game. They needed that boost from Zion and they didn't get it. So hopefully he could get it together. But Ja Morant showed, and he's been showing that he probably should have been the number one pick in that draft, talent wise.
Looking like it, man. I mean, talent wise, I like Ja when I saw what he was doing in the what was it, March Madness tournament for
Oh,
Murray
yeah.
State. Like I was just impressed, and just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
athleticism alone was just impressive. But you couldn't pass up on a guy like Zion who's been in highlight reels since high school, then college, and all you have is like, well, if he's doing this against high schoolers, what's he going to look like in college? Is he going to slow down then? And then he's dominating college, and you're like, okay, he's got to be able to do this in the NBA. And then we had that one All-Star season from Zion, and it's when he's on, he's on. He's a wrecking ball, man. He's an unstoppable force. But when you have Brandon Ingram, man, hooping like this, and you have CJ McCollum having a game like this as well, and this is a team that made some noise a few years ago in the play-in, just showing how chippy they were. It's kind of discouraging, man, to see Zion just not own up to his full potential because when it, I don't know, it's just I guess it's just me being an NBA junkie that I just want to see the highest form of basketball all around, right? I want to see all these players who got like the name brands and all this type of stuff. Zion was touted as this great generational player, and it's like he hasn't even really lived up to that expectation. And when I look at the Pelicans and what they've now are going through with him, especially when it comes to injuries, weight gain, and so forth, I'm just wondering, do you start thinking about trading this dude? Because you got BI, and you're like, this team is meant to be a BI and Zion show, but you haven't began that. I forget if it was last season, the year before that. You have both these guys in and out of the rotation, right? Where it's like BI was there, Zion was there. They haven't played many games in a few together in the past few seasons, but now this season, you have them on the court, and it's just been so inconsistent for a team like the Pelicans, where it was last season. They were number one in the West. Like, this team can roll, and they're just not doing that. And I'm wondering, David Griffin, do you get on the line and say, all right, man, I got to figure this stuff out, because Zion he's not sure if you can buy in right now. You're not getting the best performances. I mean, you're going against the Memphis Grizzlies. They don't have Steven Adams, who they're starting center, right? And I'm looking at, like, I like Triple J. I like what they have on that. They got Bismack Biyombo. Thought that was a good offseason signing for them. But it's Zion Williamson. You're supposed to be able to walk on that court, and it's like, how do we stop him? Not show up with, like, in the teens. Like, you're talking about, a 13-point performance. And this is not even like an off chance occurrence. This is not an off chance occurrence. This also happened in the play-in tournament, where you saw he was a no-show too in both rounds. Yeah, the Pelicans defeated the Kings, but he didn't show up for that one. And then against the Lakers, they got smoked. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm thinking it's time for the Pelicans to start having real conversations if Zion should be even part of their future, because you got so much talent on this team, especially with Trey Murphy. You got Herb Jones, CJ. You want to make sure you made that trade with the Blazers just so that you can make something happen. And the one guy who you've done all this for, one of the two guys, I should say, is not not making it happen. I'm thinking that you got to start hitting the lines and saying, all right, what do we get for Zion right now?
What do you think his trade value is like right now?
Man, this is the thing, right? Is that he's still so, like, up in the air. It's like, what if he gets a new change of scenery? He's so talented. Like, you can't knock the talent, like, when he's on. But it's like, is it the change of scenery that he needs? So if, like, you're the Pelicans, you're like, well, we're not going to sell him for pennies on the dollar. But then if you're the opposing team, it's like, we're not giving up a lot either, because we don't know if he's going to be happy here either. I just don't know. I feel like you can get the draft compensation. Are you going to get enough young players to go in that deal? Because I wouldn't want to give up a young player with, like, knowing that Zion may not be happy. Like, if I'm the Kings, like, and this may be hyperbole, but it's like Murray, I'm, like, not even thinking about giving up Murray for the sake of, like, well, we could have this theoretical great thing plus the draft picks, but it's like, I don't know. That's just me, though, because I can't deal with the unknown. He's doing stuff like James Harden, where it's like, James Harden is a proven player in this league. Zion is still yet to prove himself.
Maybe the change of scenery is the same scenery you have right now.
Yeah, I'm outside Madison Square Garden right now. I can see the orange. This is the change of scenery that I need.
How's the weather out there?
It's pretty good. I got a t-shirt on. It's nice. I feel a little bit of a breeze, but hey, it's all good.
Yeah, what's crazy? Like, speaking of the Knicks, I mean, there was a time where Ja was going through his stuff, Zion going through his stuff. Is RJ have the most value in that draft?
Oh man, I would say. I mean, if you're looking for someone who's
I don't know what Ja. Well, yeah, true, but I still don't know. I mean, Ja's Ja, right?
I would, if anything, if I was to redo that draft, like, you still got to take Zion in the top 3. I think you still got to take that gamble. Yeah. I don't like, if I knew what I knew now, I'd probably take him 3. I'd put RJ at 4, and I'd put Garland up in, like, 2 or 3 areas. So it'd probably be Ja. Probably go Garland or Zion.
I would have to look at the draft. It's so long ago. Like, I covered the draft pretty closely on my pod, and that's so long ago. I can't even, like, think of all the players in it right now with so many.
Honestly, I looked at that draft not too long ago. I was like, there's only really 4 players I'm interested in, and that's
right.
Ja,
Yeah, I think you're right,
Zion, Garland, and RJ. Those are probably the only, like, Cam in that draft. That was okay. I mean,
you would have Garland over RJ, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'd have Garland
Yeah,
over RJ.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like RJ would be bumped down to 4
Right,
just
right.
because the professionalism. I know the inconsistencies and all that, but still, like I would take. You still got to take the gamble on Zion. I think Ja goes 1 overall if you had to redo it. Garland is somewhere up there, either 2 or 3. And I think you probably take him 2 just because the professionalism and all-star talent. I think that's where I would go. I think Zion in this case would go 3. RJ would probably go 4.
Yeah. I know this is not a Knicks conversation, but I do want to ask you. You mentioned Garland and made me think about Donovan Mitchell. And there's a lot of Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks thoughts. What are your thoughts on that? Because as much as I like Donovan's game, like when I was watching him play earlier this season, I thought he got even better right before the injury. Like he is super dynamic, just super strong, super athletic, highly skilled, one of the best guards in the league, in my opinion, all-star level player. But defensively, does that make sense, him and Brunson?
Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can make it work. I mean,
Okay.
I think you can make it work. I mean, it'd be very. I mean, the way the league's going right now, it's so offensively driven that you know, I mean, we're watching like 110 being scored regular on a nightly basis. I think when he gets down to playoffs, can you get the stops that you need? I mean, we saw like even the in-season tournament, right? Pacers just getting the right defensive stops against the Celtics and the Bucks. I mean, it can happen. So can it happen throughout a 7-game series? I think that's the question with any team that you go. I mean, we can go back to when Chuck was like, "Oh, how are you going to win with 3-point shooting with the Warriors?" And the next thing you know, they win the championship, man. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's possible, but you'd have to like fill out the rest of the roster with a lot of defensive oriented guys who can play. That's
Yeah,
how, like,
I guess I was asking about this roster because how many moves could you make outside of that move, right? Like that's going to be tough to restructure your whole team outside of that move if that move were to happen midseason.